A very good afternoon to everyone. At the outset, we would like to thank everyone for coming for this session. I would request everyone to settle down, and we would like to first start off with the national anthem. So I please request everyone to stand up for the Indian national anthem.
मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you, everyone. Now I would like to request Mr. Ganesh Iyer, country head for CISI India, to hand over the bouquets to the esteemed dignitaries on the stage. First, we have the Right Honorable the Lord Mayor Alderman Alan Yarrow. Then we have Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, CEO of Bombay Stock Exchange. Then we have Mr. P.H. Ravi Kumar. Mr. Simon Kalain, CEO of CISI. And finally, we have Mr. Ambrish Datta. Now we have request Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan to hand over the bouquets to the guest on the stage. Now I would like to dignitaries request them to please light the lamp. We have the lamp ceremony. I would now like to request Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, the MD and CEO of BSE, to help us with the welcome address.
Good morning, everybody. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Right Honorable the Lord Mayor, Alderman Yarrow, who joins us all the way from London for this event. He is a specialist in investment banking and has also served as a chairman of Chartered Institute of Investment and Securities. I would also like to welcome Simon Culhan, who is the Chief Executive of the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment. Let me also extend a warm welcome to Mr. P.H. Ravi Kumar, my friend Ambrish, and everyone present here today at the International Convention Hall of BSE. BSE is very happy to work very closely with Chartered Institute in investment and securities, and also would like to strengthen the relationship in future. This International Convention Hall has seen the development of Indian capital markets over the past century or more, first as a trading ring for the brokers and then as a convention hall post-digitization. Most of you are aware that BSE was established in 1875 as a native share and stockbroker association. Since inception, BSE has offered an efficient capital raising platform to companies in India. BSE has witnessed growing ties between India and UK, as many important dignitaries have visited India and have addressed a gathering in this very International Convention Hall of BSE in the recent past. The UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, through its Prosperity Fund and British High Commission in India, has contributed to the cost of development for the launch of S&P BSE Carbonex. Thank you, sir. India and UK have been friends since ages. Recently, UK Prime Minister David Cameron met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Australia on the sidelines of G20 summit. UK Prime Minister was quoted after the meeting that relations with India are at the top of the priorities of UK's foreign policy. He has also invited Narendra Modi to visit United Kingdom. India is the third largest foreign investor in United Kingdom, and likewise, United Kingdom is a significant investor in India. There are many bilateral trade agreements between the two nations designed to strengthen ties. London is and serves to be the example of the best and biggest financial hub in the world. United Kingdom is known for its quality of education. London is a major center of higher education, teaching, and research, and its 43 universities form the largest concentration of higher education in Europe. A number of world-leading education institutions are based in London. Recently, Imperial College London was ranked joint second along with the Cambridge University. The London School of Economics has been described as the world's leading social science institution for both teaching and research. The London Business School is considered one of the world's leading business schools. The great institutions of United Kingdom only inspired the BSE Institute, the learning arm of the BSE, to help achieve the world-class education at the heart of India's financial hub. In our endeavor to offer world-class training to the students at BSE Institute, the Institute has collaborated with international universities across Frankfurt, Australia, and Canada. There is a dire need for collaboration between the great institutions of UK and India, and regular dialogues will surely benefit both the nations. Once again, on behalf of BSE, I welcome all the dignitaries and guests and look forward to the deliberation at this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Mr. Ravi Kumar to come on stage and please give an introduction of the Right Honorable Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure in introducing you Lord Mayor, Mr. Alan Yarrow, who has been the chairman of CISI since September 2009. He was with Dresdner Kleinwort and after 37 years with the group, last as group vice chairman, chairman of the UK Bank, he has experience both on the wealth and investment banking side as well as on the investment, on the best practices, governance, ethics, and integrity side. He has been the chairman of Kleinwort Benson Group as well as director of Turquoise Global Holdings Limited, Fixnetics Limited, and trustee of Police Foundation. He is an alderman and magistrate of the City of London, an almoner of Christ's Hospital, and a member of City of London Corporation Policy and Resource and Establishment Committees. He has been recently elected to become Lord Mayor of the City of London 2014-15 and has taken office in November 2014. He has been formerly the Sheriff of the City of London in 2011-12, Deputy Chairman of FSA Practitioner Panel, Chairman of what is now AFME, Director of Complinate, Member of Takeover Panel, the Council of British Bankers Association, and the Chancellor of Exchequer's High-Level Stakeholders Group. I have also pleasure in introducing the CEO of CISI, Mr. Simon. Simon Kulhane. He has been the chairman of the institute since May 2004, and during his period, CASI has gone global, and I would say has scaled to a level probably which he himself might not have envisaged. He has worked with a number of blue chip financial companies and with the central government in UK. His previous role was with Deutsche Bank, where he worked as director, chairman of his global investment banking. For 3 years prior to CISI, he was the Deputy Director, Prime Minister's Efficiency Unit, Cabinet Office, where he was responsible for the unit's work in a number of major government departments. Simon has spent his early career with Lloyds Bank and in a number of roles, including Senior Group Manager, Retail Banking for the Kensington area and in Chicago, US. He is a fellow of CASI and a member of Institute of Financial Services. He has been educated at St. Paul's School, London and University of Surrey. I am happy to see in the gathering today, Mr. Alan Yarrow and Simon, all the leading practitioners of wealth management here. We have representatives from L&T, Kotak, Asit Mehta, Centrum, and all major technology companies. So those who facilitate investments and those who enable the technology platforms are both present here for you to take advantage of. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now can we please request Right Honorable the Lord Mayor, Mr. Alderman Yarrow, to come on stage and give us the keynote address.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be with you in Mumbai, delighted to be in India, and to see, and be so proud to see the BSc and the CISI are in such fine fettle. Do you know, this is the second time I've been near a trading floor in the last week. I was previously last week with ICAP, and we were on their charity day. That's the day when they give away all their commission and all their gross profit to charity. I think they raised somewhere in the region of about 20 million in that day. I was manning the phones, and I actually did a couple of deals, and I remember what it's like, and it was great fun. So it's, now I haven't dealt for a long time, so those 2 deals actually really were very refreshing. Today I appear to you at a very different kind of trader, dealing with a different kind of stock. As the role of Lord Mayor, I am an ambassador for the UK services sector. I have always been a salesman, and the UK has a great product to sell, so I fit the job perfectly. As you know, the city is the top truly global financial centre in the world, and we are also the single biggest investor in India. Equally, I have to say that the Tata organisation happens to be the largest employer in our manufacturing industry back in the UK, so there is a real partnership there. But the city is so much more than just banking and financial services. We have insurance, maritime, asset management, and legal services. You name it, we have it. And of course, the UK can offer a superb cultural life. Theatre, art, music, almost as many UNESCO World Heritage Sites as India, and food. Britain's top restaurant, according to Industry Magazine, is Gymkhana, an Indian restaurant. Also education, training and qualifications. The UK is home to the highest standards and very welcoming institutions. It's so important for India and the UK to work together to develop skills and professional standards. Everyone in the financial service industry is facing the same challenges. We need more skilled workers, particularly from graduate to mid-level. We need more specialist education. Companies all over the world are hoovering up well-qualified people, and we have to keep up with that demand. India has immense potential in its people and its workforce. It leads the world in the provision of high-quality service, exceptional human capital, and a can-do attitude. And given the increasing demands, we need a rapid upskilling. London and the UK have the preeminent specialist institutes which provide business qualifications and training. And I am, as you know, a chairman of one of those institutions, the CISI, which is putting on today's event. I first heard about the deal between the CISI and the Bombay Stock Exchange a long time ago, a year ago, in fact, way before I was Lord Mayor. We celebrated it then, and we'll celebrate it again now, although, quite frankly, I didn't realise the time difference between London and Mumbai was quite that long. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the first agreement to promote another body's qualifications, and the BSc has ever signed. Excuse me. We have a vote of confidence in the CISI and its abilities, and what a wonderful testimony to the BSc's ambition. This is coming at a similar time to the Institute's involvement with the NISM, where we're also supporting them with their integrity product. However, these products, thank you very much. That's very kind, thank you. However, these products and these exams you take, whilst you might have passed the exam on integrity, you have to maintain it with good CPD. So I strongly recommend you consider becoming a member of the CISI in your process, because we do CPD 35 hours a year to maintain your qualification. I want my trip to India to pave the way for more deals like that, not just with the CISI, not just in Mumbai, but across the country and across the world. The time is ripe. The UK-India Financial Service Partnership paves the way for an even closer relationship in the future. Even more collaboration, jobs and growth. So congratulations to all the winners of today's awards. I know you will go on to excel in your chosen careers, careers which I hope will bring you to the UK at some point. We're always looking out for top talent, and your presence will be very welcome. The fact is, you'll get a global qualification which is transportable. And if training is your thing, then look to London as well. We have an unparalleled concentration of the high-quality academic institutions and professional bodies. One of my predecessors described London as a city of learning, and it still is. It's where professionals of all stages are doing their training and their careers can develop their expertise, with our professional bodies enjoying truly global reach and reputation. The CISI alone has 40,000 members across the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, the CISI is open for business, then London is too. So, as Chair and Lord Mayor, I thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a small Bombay Stock Exchange history video which we would like to showcase to everyone. So can we have the video, please?
Established in 1875 as the Native Share and Stockbrokers Association, the BSE is the oldest stock exchange in Asia. The history of the BSE.
Thank you very much, and it's very good to see you here, and particularly in this very historic hall where until recently, of course, the trades actually took place. It's very good of you to come. Many of you have come a long way away. Some have come as far as London, but indeed many of our students have come, and I know they got up at 3:30 this morning to come from Bangalore and catch the first flight up. So a very warm welcome to you here. And in a moment, our chairman and the Lord Mayor is going to present a few of the awards to our 6 students today. But I just want to give a little bit of background before we do that. Now, the Institute has been around a long time, but in the last year, 40,000 people sit our qualifications. That's a huge amount. Increasingly, people are sitting them abroad. It is becoming a global benchmark. And 15,000 of those qualifications are in the operations sector. And some of our winners today are working in the operations sector. And in India, nearly 1,500 exams are taken, CSI examinations are taken, are in the operations world, where tens of thousands of international jobs have arrived. But there is a big demand for skilled people. And there's a big demand for a number of reasons. There are 3, if you like, push factors now for why qualifications are becoming so important. One of them, the macro one, if you like, is the IOSCO. IOSCO rules. This is the overarching Commission of Security organizations. And they have Section 29. And in Section 29, one of their 3 pillars is protecting consumers. And that means having competent advisors. And more organizations and capital market authorities are raising the standards for what competence means over the last few years. And we've seen that in the UK, where for wealth managers, the standard was raised by 1 notch to now effectively degree level. So this is a trend all over the place. And secondly, the market is saying they want skilled people. See skills as a very international requirement. International banks want a common standard. They want to know that the people doing the job in Mumbai are the same level, the same quality as the people doing the job in London. Made in India should be the same as made in England. And that's why they want the same common benchmark examinations. And thirdly, governments also recognise that if they want to be a financial centre, then they need to have common international standards. And as we'll see later on when we look at the integrity talk, Mumbai is moving up there, but a little bit more to do. Now these exams, particularly the ones that our students have taken, they're recognised, or some of them are recognised, in over 32 jurisdictions. And in fact, the latest one, which 2 of our students haven't quite taken because it's so new, but they've taken a derivative of it, was recognised here in India by NISM. So for wealth managers, it now means that from October, if you take the CSI Wealth Management Indian version, that counts. That counts as the authorization for you to work. And actually, if, as the Lord Mayor was saying, you become a member and maintain your CPD for 3 years, you don't have to take a repeat examination. So quite an incentive to keep up with your membership and keep up with the knowledge. Because taking examinations is really the first part of being a professional. That is the entry ticket. Now these 6 students today, they have completed the very first part. They have attained that first examination. They've either obtained the International Introduction to Securities Investment or, in 2 cases, the Certificate in Wealth Management. And they are the best in their colleges. And that means that for some of them, particularly the ones that have taken the International Intro, if they wanted to work, for example, in the Gulf, in the UAE, then they've just met the requirements set by the regulator at the Emirates Capital Markets Authority to be a broker or an advisor. It is the first level. And the award winners for our Certificate in Wealth can actually take a small conversion course today to be eligible to get that Indian pass. But next year students will be taught that Indian version. And that means they are going to be very attractive to firms. And industry needs skilled people. And actually we're building up and we're responding to demand from firms in Bangalore who are saying to us, have you got some skilled people we can have? We need some. And we are talking to the colleges saying, here is some jobs for you to take once you've got the qualifications. That is exactly what it's all for. So let us recognise these 6 individuals who have studied very hard. And for many of them, it's not part of their core curriculum. They've done it on a Saturday. And I was delighted to see that one of their tutors is here. Mr. Ravi is here who works at State Street normally, and he teaches them on a Saturday. So thank you very much for coming. To pass any exam is tough. To pass it when you have to work extra hours on top of your normal studies is double tough. To come top is a triply tough too. So well done. It's quite an achievement for them to do that. So I'd like to invite the Lord Mayor to join me out front, and we got some very nice, better than paper certificates actually. I'm going to show you what one of them is. These are a rather nice looking certificates you can actually keep. They don't just sit on the wall, they're on the desk really. Anyway, the first 2 students we have today, the first one is Miss Aditi Shenoy from Jain University, Bangalore. Well done. And the second person is Mr. Rishav Jain, also from Jain University. Now, a bit closer to home, in Mumbai, from the ITM College, the top achievers who took the International Certificate in Wealth and Investment Management. First is Mr. Anand Chapaka. and also from ITM College, Ms. Smriti Garima. And our final two students are from Christ University in Bangalore, Mr. Akshay Joshu. And finally, but by no means least, and we might have a little more volume on the clapping, I think, is Mr. Vikram Adhikar. Okay, super. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, and a huge congratulations to all the students. Now we would like to request Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan to hand over the mementos to all the dignitaries.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. Thank you. Right, we're going to take a 30-second break. So we're going to take a 30-second break. I know the Lord Mayor has actually another engagement to go to. So I'd like to thank him and Ashish for coming this morning. And we'll be back in literally 30 seconds to do part 2, which is where we got some voting machines, and we're going to have a few dilemmas, because the third part of professionalism is behaving with it. Very good afternoon. We're going to do part 2 now. If you thought you were coming to an integrity lecture, which is going to drone on for 45 minutes, I'm pleased to tell you that's not going to happen, because we're going to get you to do most of the talking. And in fact, I remember I gave a talk very similar in here 5 years ago, actually, and this was the title of a great scandal, and the then chief executive was in great demand, and we had 500 people here, including about 30 journalists. They didn't come to talk about integrity, they came to talk about the scandal. Well, we have no scandals here today, but we do have some case studies and some dilemmas for you to give your thoughts on. And you should have got, there are some little red machines. Have you got them up? Probably at 1 between 2, 1 between 3. There should be a little red machine, looks like a TV remote near you. Have you all got one of those, or can you see one? Yep. Okay. We're going to do this in groups, you see, and you're going to have to talk to your neighbour in a minute. And if you don't know your neighbour, you're going to have to get to know your neighbour. So this is going to be very interactive and very friendly. So a little bit of background to kick off. Now, when we talk about World City Financial Ratings, this is a survey that's carried out every 6 months. And you can see down here, we've got Mumbai at 61. I alluded to that a bit earlier. The question is, how do you get up? How do you get up the top? Well, there are a number of factors that help you become a financial centre. This is what banks and financial companies say they want. They first of all want skilled people, hence the qualifications. But they also want to deal in trust. They want a fair and just business environment, and that's behaving with integrity. Those 2 points are pretty critical. And actually, that's what the CISI does, which is a charity, and you'll see that's our mission statement, and you'll see there's something in there is about integrity. Now, when we say professionalism, and I mentioned professionalism a little earlier by saying that qualifications was the entry to professionalism, it's really 3 things that make up a professional. It doesn't matter whether you're a professional doctor, professional accountant, professional lawyer, or a professional financier. There are 3 ingredients. The first is that you have knowledge. The second is that you have skills. And the third thing is that you behave with integrity. Knowledge, skills, behavior. Those three component parts are what makes a professional. And you can think about it. Think about a doctor. He's got the basic knowledge. He knows how to apply that. And he looks after his patient first. Same for a financier, a wealth manager. Got the knowledge, knows how to apply it, put the client first. Those are the ingredients of being a professional. Not just taking the first exam, not just doing nothing and not staying up to date, and certainly not behaving without integrity. The three component parts. Now in India, we have got a thriving operation here in India, and we have our office based in Mumbai. You've met our country head, Mr. Ganesh Iyer, and there's a lovely picture here of our president, Mr. Ravi Kumar, who, when talking about the advantage of technology, has made this lovely phrase, technology makes geography history. And that is so true. And as I mentioned, we have just agreed a recognition for the wealth exams with the NISM. But, back to integrity. What do we mean by that? Well, it's a bit like saying sort of, well, what is it? It's how you live, it's what you do. Well, yes, to a point. And we do know that trust is pretty critical. If we don't trust people, we don't do business with them, especially in the financial world, especially in a financial transaction. If you don't trust somebody, you won't do it. And only an hour ago, I was hearing one of the reasons why so few people in India put their money in institutions is they don't trust them. The savings rate is very high, but the amount of savings in institutions is very low. Trust is not there. With all the scandals, it's not hard to disagree. And we know from experience that if you don't trust somebody, you don't do any business with them, and it has a real economic effect on a balance sheet. And no trust, well, hardly likely to do anything at all. And that's why the UK regulator has this marvellous phrase. Actually, it's not his, but he did say it, and it's quite a good phrase. Trust arrives by foot, but it leaves by Ferrari. And that's pretty much, isn't it? True, isn't it? It takes ages to build something up, but it can be gone in a second. And if we look around at various world events, it's not very difficult to find plenty of examples of where trust has disappeared. We could have lots of sporting events. We could talk about baseball, we could talk about football, snooker, anything. World Cup even. Lots of scandals there. But let's just take a quick look at a bit of politics. Now, I know you have some interesting politics here in India, but there's plenty of interesting politics elsewhere. Here is one in Germany. Here in Germany, the education minister resigned about 18 months ago because it turns out she had plagiarized a thesis. Now that's pretty good, isn't it? Here you have the education minister who'd forged her degree. And and you'll see in the white writing, the magazine Der Spiegel says, it's as if the finance minister was caught hiding his money in Switzerland. Well, you couldn't make this up. Let's go to France. In France, what do we find? The finance minister hiding his money in Switzerland. This is just over a year ago. And the tax czar hides his money in Switzerland. You couldn't get a greater example of hypocrisy. So no wonder that in the West, politicians are not regarded very highly. But equally, bankers and financiers, and anybody working in finance is lumped in that category, for good or for ill, they are equally have a low reputation. And here is why. Here are just a few headlines that have cropped up recently. This is May 2014. This is not 5 years ago. It is May. Barclays fixing the attempt to gold price, £26 million fine. Nothing compared to what's coming. Interest rate mis-selling. Lots of banks are involved in that. JP Morgan, HSBC, Credit Agricole accused of Euribor fix, and they've already imposed fines of €1 billion. That's a phenomenal amount of money. JP Morgan again fined. BNP Paribas fined $8.9 billion. That's almost unheard of. That would break many a bank because they violated some sanctions. Standard Chartered, 300 million. I could go on. And then the other week, here we are, November 14, 3 weeks ago. 6 banks fined 4.3 billion. These are just enormous numbers that are fined. Makes that 26 million look absolutely nothing. It is therefore no wonder that banks continue to suffer from their low reputation. Even the Vatican Bank is not immune. Virtually all banks have got something. And that's why in the UK we've had a banking oversight body being launched to try and put back the idea of integrity and professionalism into the institutes. And the UK regulator has got a good phrase, actually. And he's talking about trust being the hottest of hot topics. And he says, we need the tone from the top to be the tone from the middle. And the truth of when it has arrived is when the tone at the top is the tone at the till. That's a pretty good point. The tone at the top and the tone at the till. How long will it take for change to be coming through so that the customer can actually see these changes? What is interesting about the regulatory bodies in Europe particularly is they're talking about culture now. They're not talking about rules. They're not saying you just follow the letter of the law. What they're saying is, did you follow the spirit? 6 years ago, it was the letter. Legal eagles could weave lots of ways around it. Now it is the spirit, and there are much, much tighter and much greater expectations. And that's why when you look at survey after survey, you see that bankers are right down the bottom along with politicians. And any survey you want, actually, banks don't get too good. Actually, they get worse in the West than they do in the East. The East is pretty good. Bankers are still quite reasonable. And in China, bankers are up there with people working in technology. But in the West, banks are not so much. So, enough talking. Time for us to start doing something. When we talk about integrity, there are 4 things you might like to do, or 4 things you might like to take with you. In fact, if there's one thing that you should remember from the next 20 minutes or so, it is, what is integrity? And we would say it's a combination of honesty, openness, transparency, and fairness. And don't forget fairness. Fairness is a really big part these days. And you can remember it by the mnemonic, hot F. So if someone says to you, well, what do you mean by integrity? You can say, well, it's got 4 component parts. Honesty, openness, transparency, and fairness. That should get you a job straight away, just by knowing that. So let's start with a dilemma. I'm going to give you 2 dilemmas. The first one, and I'm going to explain what it is, and then we'll have a chance to talk about it. So here we are. We've got, this one's called the inflated resume, or the inflated CV, depending on your vocabulary. And we're going to make you the chairman of a firm of fund managers. And you employ a guy called Dilal Patel. He's a pretty successful guy. He's not super successful. He's a good guy. And you want to invite him to join the board. There's a board meeting tomorrow, and amongst the papers is a proposal he should join the board. And in the papers is his resume, and it said that he graduated from university in 1985. However, barely the paper's gone out, then you get a phone call from a non-executive director who phones you up and he says, I am absolutely sure that Dilal never graduated. Why did you say that, you say? Well, he went to university with my son, and I remember at the time he just dropped out just before the exams. Okay, so you as chairman, you ask Dilal to come in and you say, Dilal, is this true? Do you have a degree? And Dilal says, no, I don't. And he said, this is very embarrassing. We're just launching a new fund, and you are going to be the fund manager, and you are going to have an advertising campaign. Why did you not take the degree? And he said, well, it's not as bad as you think. I had a 3-year course. I did the first year, did extremely well. Second year, I was one of the top students. Just a few months in the third year, a few weeks actually, before I was taking my finals, I had completed all of my learning. My mother died. I was so upset and distraught, I was unable to take my exam. And I just didn't really take it. But I'd done all the learning so far. Oh, you say, I'm really sorry to hear that. This now gives you a dilemma. What are you, the chairman, going to do? And we're going to give you 4 options. Option 1, you're going to say, minor matter, not very material. We'll continue with the launch. We'll remove the reference to the degree in advertising, because that is actually illegal if you haven't got a degree. But carry on as normal. You can join the board. Option 2, Oh, Dilal, I think you have to pay a fine, some penance for your mistake. I don't think you can come to the board right now, but you can stay on the firm. Of course, we would take off the reference to his degree. Option 3, you say, Dilal, you can't come to the board. In fact, I need to ask you to resign. And option 4, you say, Dilal, I'm afraid you need to leave. I'm firing you. Now, this is based on a real case. Here are the 4 options. What are you going to do? Now, to help you decide what to do, you need to make friends to somebody who's got one of those little red controllers. And in groups of 2 or 3, tell them why you think your answer is the right one. And if you don't know the person, say hello before you even start talking. So, say hello, talk, think, and convince the person next to you or who's got the red controller that you have the right answer. Talk away. We're going to first of all turn on those machines. So if you've got one of those red machines, there's a little button on the left-hand side. Hold it down for about 3 seconds, and it should turn on. It comes up with Quizdom version 6. The good news is we gave out 30 machines. 26 of you have managed to turn it on. That's not too bad, but 4 of you haven't yet. That's better. And then you vote A, B, C, D. Now see if you can have a consensus to what you are voting, and you use the arrow keys and press the send button. And when you get an answer, it'll tell you, it says you answered whatever. You answered A or you answered D. Now here we are in the BSc, home of technology. So far 2 of you can't turn it on and 10 of you can't vote. That's not a very good impression, is it? So, a few more to vote. Just check that you have voted because it'll say on it, you answered. Right, so have a look at your machine, that's better. 23. We've still got 2, by the way, you haven't turned it on. Can you just check, if you're in a group, just have another look to check that you have done yours, otherwise your vote won't get recorded. That's better, 25. Well, we've still got 2 not quite working, or not there. Anyway, we'll have a look and see what we got. And then we're going to have a debate as to the reasons that we've got what we've got. So, let's have a look. Right. So, we've got quite a mixture, haven't we? So, here we are. We talked about integrity and you all nodded wisely saying, yeah, I understand all that. And look, we've got 4 different choices. So we've got 4 different ways to answer that. Option A, 12% of you said, not a big deal, don't worry about it. 36% of you said, pay a fine. In fact, that's the most popular answer. Sympathy, empathy coming out here. 32% of you went for option C, which was to allow him to resign. And 20 of you are hard people, tough. You said you're fired straight away. Well, now let's see if we can make some sense of it. Now we've got a couple of mics. Oh, slight change now. Look, now someone's seeing what the answers are. They've gone to the most popular one. What I want to do is, if you can give me one reason, one little bullet point, then we'll get some sort of discussion going. So, if you're an A person, 15% of you are A people. Anyone, A person like to give me, or the chap with the microphone, just one sentence as to why you went A. So who's an A like to give it one sentence? Is there some A people here? Are you A's? I'll take one. Who's an A person? You might be right. Be brave. Have the moral courage to come out and speak. Come on. Let's have an A person. You all know who's an A person. You might be right. Well done. You're going to be an A person. You're on your own here. Right. Give me one reason.
The reason is declared, accepted the inflator, so there is a correction for reformation.
Okay, right. So you're giving him some credit for owning up. I think that's the gist of it. Some credit for owning up was the reason for A. All right, B's. Now, feel safer with B's. 35%, 37, it's going up all the time. 37% of you said a B. Now, that means if you don't say I have to pick on someone, and there's a 37% chance I'm going to be right. So, give me a B. I want just a sentence as to why a B. B, vote for B. Here's a vote for B. Okay.
I might not require that, so I'm not sure I can use B.
Okay.
So, we voted for B because on fairness.
Fairness. Very good point. So again, You're saying the same thing as the chap behind you, except you've just given him graduated. Some degree of fairness. Were you going to say something? No? Heavens no. Right. Anyone else like to say something for B? Are you a B lady? No, I know. Don't catch my eye. Dangerous. I might ask you to speak. Oh, dare. Right. Any more Bs? Any more Bs? I'm going to go and see what our students said in a minute. What are your students' vote? What did you vote?
We went with C.
Yeah, for C. Any more Bs before we go and ask our students here? Any more Bs? Anyone else want to say something for B? So we've had fairness as one of the key reasons. All right. A C. Let's give me a couple of points as to why from C.
So we went with C because despite the fact that you know he's not qualified, if you make him the fund manager, you're being an accomplice to crime, I think.
So why didn't you fire him?
So we be nice to him and we asked him to resign.
Okay, you are being nice to him. Why are you being nice to him?
Yeah, and maybe he can join us afterwards once he's done with his qualification. He can complete his.
So you want it? Okay, all right. So you want him to complete the qualification, so he's got to go.
Right. Yeah.
But right, any more for C's? C's was 30% of your C's. Another C over here.
Same answer.
Yeah, I think I agree with the comment which has been made earlier that it's a very small thing. The person has actually tried to hide the qualification part from his CV. It looks small, but in reality, the person who is not able to really stick to the honesty and the person is going to really try and amend the CV just to really get some other opportunities in the market. Obviously, it is going to lead another financial crime when he's going to be given a more responsibility about. So obviously fund management, because he's going to really deal with lots of funds at all the time. Integrity is very, very critical, and this is the smallest thing which he is not able to really maintain the integrity, then obviously it is a big thing. And coming back to the another question which has been raised, that okay, why he has been really asked to resign, because in spite of really he hide the qualification part, he was open enough and transparent enough to really tell the truth when he came to know that yes, it has been really identified and there's no point to really hide any other thing. Probably it is good gesture.
Okay, that's a very good, coherent answer. We'll hear from the Ds, but I just want to ask you, is this a single error or is this a multiple error? In other words, did he make this error once 29 years ago, or did he repeat the error at regular intervals? What do you think? Repeated it. Okay, why do you think he repeated it? I'm going to ask this lady here, have a microphone. Why do you think he repeated it?
If you could hide it for such a long period, and honesty and integrity is what really goes to great. If you could not keep up to that, I think it's not worth hiring him.
Okay, do you think he repeated the error? If so, how did he repeat it? You don't know. Okay. The CV was not changed. No, good point. The CV was not changed. When does the CV come out? When would you have had to have that CV? We know it comes out now. Yes, but where else do you think he'd have had to use the CV? When he applied for a job. And where else? Where else do you think they would use the CV? How about every time they launch a new fund? How about every time they have a report? It will say, won't it? It'll say Dilal Patel, BSc on it. So it's not just once. You live it all the time. Now the problem is here, you see, if you said it just once, you might be saying A's and B's, but if it's every time, well, we haven't heard from D's yet. So D's, what do you think? If you're a D person, what are you? 19% of you were 20 once. If you're a D person, give me a reason for why you've taken the harder line. Ravi.
Okay. The perspective on D has nothing to do with penalty. It is more about reforming and messaging to others in the industry and the organization. So it's not about him. I love him. I like him. Poor guy. Forget the repeating it. Poor guy. All of that doesn't come into me as a person who is the chairman of the company, because I have a role and responsibility to protect the fundamentals of the company, which is about dealing with customers with integrity. So if I don't give the message today to others, by the way I treat with him, I'm actually a person of misconduct.
Okay, that's a very good answer. So the argument for D is I need to do what is right to set an example of what is acceptable in my organisation. So we've got lots of different answers, lots of different ways. Let's see if we can make some sense of it. So we've got the fact, we do have the fact that he repeated the lie, absolutely right. We've also got the fact that setting an example, and we go back to those original things, honesty, openness, transparency, and fairness. Now, give him some credit. What things does he have in his credit? One of them would be what? He owned up. Okay, so he's got some credit for owning up, and he owned up straight away too, actually. And you do want to encourage the culture where people are honest straight away. So there's credit number one. What other bit of credit has he got? You just shout out another bit of credit. How about working for 29 years? Pretty good. So he's got some credit in the bank, and yet, at the same time, fund management, trust, repeating it, and what do you get to? Something along, this is quite an interesting one, because what happened in real life and what happened in theory actually differs. And there is also the question about a resume or CV. Now you see, lots of statistics suggest that people exaggerate on their CV. So when people say they're big mountaineers, it means occasionally they climb a hill. But there are certain things that there are red lines, and qualifications is one of them. And you can just imagine if you were operated on by someone, a surgeon who wasn't qualified, or you had legal advice by somebody, qualifications are very important. So that is a red line. So it's a serious offence. So what do? Well, what happened in real life and what the integrity answer is from the Institute actually differ. What the integrity panel who put these together, which is made up of practitioners, said, what they said was, all things considered, the credit and the debit, option C was what they reckon was a fair answer. You had all the credit sides for him, and yet still he needed to go. What happened in real life? D. He was fired in real life. And actually, if you look at real life, you get all sorts of examples. Here are a couple. Here's a guy called John Campbell. John Campbell took his company and floated it. And 10 years earlier, he'd held himself out that he had a degree. And this all came out when he came to float his company. But he'd had 10 years when he'd become honest. And he effectively escaped. So he was allowed to continue. It was almost considered an option A, minor matter. What about the Yarrow CEO? The Yahoo CEO, I should say. Yahoo CEO, now this is the truth engine, okay? And it found his guy, Scott Thompson, had a fake degree. Interestingly, the PR machine at Yahoo said minor matter. The public said, hold on, not a minor matter. And the public said option D. And that's exactly what happened. Let's go to Ecuador. Ecuador's economy is in a bit of a mess. Wonder why? The central bank governor said actually he doesn't have a degree in economics. That could be half the reason. He had to go. Then we had a top city lawyer. Okay, but my best one, the health service. The NHS is the British health service. So the NHS director, senior director, earning a lot of money. He just forgot to mention that previously he was an armed robber. He didn't put that on his CV. He had to go too. Right, here we're going to do one more. Now this one is a bit tougher. This is another real case. This is a business case. And this will be our last one too, but this one you need to have lots of grey cells. We're going to make you a managing director, so a slight demotion. Managing director, you're going to have looking after a team. It doesn't matter what industry it's in, by the way, this is any team. You've got an opportunity to bid for some business from a client who you've known and want to do business with for many years. You don't do enough business with them, and now you have an opportunity to do that business with them. So you create a small team of 3, and they spend 2 weeks preparing for this pitch, because you're given an invitation to tender. So they're preparing the pitch, and comes the magic day, and they're asked to make a presentation. So it's on the day, they go into the office. Now the office is a bit like any office. It's a commercial building, they own most of the floors. You go through security, give your name, search your bags, upstairs, into the floor, in the waiting room for their turn to do the presentation. And they're waiting there for a few minutes, and whilst they're waiting there, sitting in the sofa, something lumpy is in the sofa as they sit down. And one of the team looks at it, picks up the cushion, and underneath it he finds a little book, like this. And he leafs through the book, and his eyes glaze, get wider and glaze. A big smile appears. He realizes this is the competition's book. This is what they're doing as well. A few minutes later, they all look at it. A few minutes later, there's a knock on the door. The PA says, it's your turn to do the pitch. So they pick up the book they've got, they put it into their bag, and they go and do a pitch. Now, they do a really good pitch. They do it to the chairman, the CEO, the finance director, a non-executive director, head of HR. There's 5 people in the room, and they do a great pitch. You've heard the term pitch perfect. That's what they did. It was superb. The half-hour pitch actually went on for nearly an hour. The rapport was terrific. And when the chairman eventually shook the team leader by the hand, it was a very warm message. I'll look forward to seeing you in a few days' time on Friday. Elated, your team went back. They went back to their office, real story this, they went back to their office, and there was already an email saying, please confirm you're coming on Friday at 10:30 to do a presentation. And that night, in the firm, there is a little bit of a celebration. It is today's date, December the 10th, and this particular deal is not huge, not a huge deal, but it is enough just to give them 5 percentage points, and they've got 96% of their target so far. So it will allow them to hit 100%. 100% is good news and maybe even a bonus. So it's quite important, but it's not huge in absolute terms. But so pleased are they that they do all go out that evening, and there's a little bit of a party. They have some food and drink, and they tell everybody that they've got to the final. And by the way, they've got this pitch book. So everybody knows about it. It's a lot of fun. And now we move the story to 10 o'clock on the Friday. You, as the managing director, you get to hear that the team has done a really good job. You don't know they've got the pitch book. But you're going to walk past their office and wish them all the best because they're going to do their pitch. And as you do that, you go past their office and you knock on the door and you say, good luck for today, chaps. It's really important we win that. And a very fresh-faced, spotty young graduate comes bouncing up to you and he says, we don't need luck, boss. Look what we've got. And that's where we leave the story. So here you are as managing director. That spotty-faced graduate has just come up to you and told you that you've got this book. What are you going to do? It's 10th of December. It's 5% of the deal. Here are your 4 options. Do not press any buttons. Here are your 4 options. Option number 1, you're going to say, fantastic. Well done for being so observant. That's going to make sure that we get our target. Option 2, you're going to say, I'm sure that's my phone that's ringing. It's going to be a really important call. I've got to go and answer it. Option 3, you say, I think we need to say that you've picked up this book in error and you stick to what you did a couple of days ago. Option 4, you say, oh, I don't think you can go back there now. So real case, real money, real people, have a really good think, and then we'll have a discussion. So talk to your neighbours, convince them that you have the right answer. I see lots of talking. So you should be to vote then. So make sure you've actually got your machine on. And we've got one malfunctioning machine. 23 of you have voted. Make sure you check. You should have 28. 28 people here should have voted. 28 machines. And think of your one reason. So when I ask you for some reasons, because I know what you're voting now, I've asked you. Think of what your one reason is going to be. Okay, 2 more to go. Just check those 2. Can we change the option? No, I'm afraid you can't change the option once it's recorded. But you can debate. You can discuss. It's okay. We're just going to see what it's like. Right, 1 more. We get a full house. Could we get a full house? 27 out of 28 we've got so far. All right, here we go. 28 out of 28, very good. Wow. Well, look at that now. That's very interesting, isn't it? So we've got really 3 options. See, integrity is so easy, isn't it? Here we have another one. Look at that. We've got a split, pretty much a 3-way split, actually. 21% A, 43% C, 36% D. Not a single person went for B. So let's immediately say that's a good choice. B, of course, was the cop-out choice, wasn't it? B said, I don't want to make a decision. A, at least. B, A, C, and D, you are making a decision. But is it the right one? So who's got some microphones? Got some microphones. A, we need some A people. 21% of you went A. 1 in 5 went A. Now I know where there are some A people. So over in that corner, can we have a microphone, please? Microphone over here. Let's have a few thoughts as to why we have A. If you're an A person, that whole group's an A. We just need a little idea. Have you got the microphone there? Microphone? Right down the end. Right, let's have the answer. Why are they embarrassed? My goodness. Right, let's have I'd like, if you just give me 1 or 2 points as to why an A is. 1 or 2 points for an A. Just what's the reasons?
Because we feel we have a target and we have to achieve that target also, and the team has done the will for this. So we feel it is we should tell the team that congratulations and you have done well. That's
okay. So if I understand what you're saying, you say they did a good job anyway. So in many respects, it doesn't matter too much. But they also have a target to do. Is that your 2 points? All right. So they did a good job and they had a target. Therefore, all is fair in love and war. Okay. Anybody else for an A? Yes, another A. Another A. Yep. Another line. Yep. Brave man standing up. Good.
Actually, the thing is that before we got the news from my team, that we got the paper, we already know that we are going to hit it, right? So that doesn't matter. It is just a confidence build up to my team, that good work team, and we are going to win this.
All right. So the answer is, answer on A, or regional A is, the team did already well. This is just a confidence booster. We didn't need it anyway. So let's stick with it and let's keep going. All right. That's the A option. Now there might be some other A's over here. Nobody went B. Majority of you went C. So let's have some C's over this side of the room. I know there are loads back over here. C's over here. Can we have a microphone?
yes.
C, right, down the back there. Somebody's in the C. We just need a couple of lines as to why people went for C.
Who's speaking? C.
Yeah, anyone who wants to say something with this is a C. You've got one microphone there.
I'm coming.
Okay, I've got a microphone too.
Yeah.
We just want, just give us an answer. Well done. Good, well done.
All the 4 principles were covered: honesty, openness, fairness, and transparency in that point.
Okay, so you thought honesty,
So we admit that it was a mistake.
Okay, and that was C, which is effectively, what is C? Go back in there. C is you've got to apologise to the client, haven't you? C is apologise for the client who picks it up in error. And you think it covered all 4 points. Any more C's? Any more C's?
Anybody sees this side?
No, everyone's quiet. See?
I can't see C's.
No, you can't see C's. There's a joke there somewhere. Right, okay. Now we're going to ask our students, you were mixed, weren't you? Some of you had what? Some C's, some D's, some... C, one more C, and then we'll come to our students who were D's, will you? C's and D's. All right.
I agree with point C, but I think it should have been one more point added to it. See, they got it, they are good fortune. They have got it, it's a good fortune. But if you actually go to see that it is not proper ethics. They have to achieve their targets, yes, but still, they have the competitors for. Maybe along with that, they should actually return it back to the competitor. That would have made sense. And D seems a little too harsh. Because it was that other guy's mistake that they left it.
All
so
right,
fact, they should
all
be
right.
punished.
So lovely lines we've had here. They got it by good fortune.
Thank you.
Right. That's interesting. And the other guy's mistake. That's interesting. So, let's, what are you going to speak for? What are you going Same. Yep, no, she's going to speak. We like ladies to speak. Come on. Yep.
I was supposed to say the same thing. It was like, our fortune that we got it, but we have to be ethical as well. Even the, client will feel that we will be working with this team and they are ethical. So whatever they will be doing in future as well, they will be do with the ethics and right way. So
what are you voting for?
Sorry?
What number option?
C.
You're voting for C.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, what about the D's? There's a reasonable number of you. Over 1 in 3 of you said D's, and our students are split here. Some are C, some are D. Let's see what they say. For D option C.
So the reason first I'll say why you cannot choose C is because you're saying that your employees took that book in error, but that wasn't the case. They took it deliberately, and you cannot make an ethical decision based on a lie. You cannot lie while making an ethical decision. So I think C is not the option. D is more viable because in D you might lose 5% of that your target, and you might lose your tender, but in the future you might get even more. What you're losing is one tender, but what you're gaining is the faith, which is more important.
Great. Okay. Well, that was very nicely said. Anybody else like to come back and argue with him? He's saying D is because you didn't get it in error. You didn't get it by good fortune. What about some C people? Who would like to argue that? I can see a few people nodding to your points, actually. Yep.
So, I think point well mentioned, but we did not take advantage of that presentation. We were falling back to our original presentation, right? So, which makes a business case definitely. So, there's no point dropping off the deal. If we are utilizing that material to win the deal, it makes a lot of sense to get ourselves penalized. But we are falling back to our own work, right? So that's the reason we went for C.
Okay, but the point he said, which is a very valid point, he says you phone the client up and you say to the client, I got it in error. But he was saying, you didn't get it in error. You didn't get it by good fortune either, so that's telling a direct lie. That's the point I think he was making, and it's a fairly good point. You were going to say something? Are you a C or a D person? Have a microphone. We'll take 2 more points, and then we will wrap it up.
It's very bogus to say that you picked it up in error because you deliberately picked it up, and you used it to modify your pitch.
Okay, are you a C or a D?
I'm a D.
Yeah, a D person. Okay, let's just go back. Okay, 1 more point here. Anyone else want to say something? Take 1 more over here, and then we will see if we can unpack it. Most of the points have come out. You're going to speak loudly. Yes.
Thank you. MD is a decision maker, and he's a kind of a front desk for the company. So what he's going to do is he's going to decide and say, okay, this is what we are going to do with regard to this kind of an error. So this will set an example that's going to bring in cash flows with regard to goodwill. So that's an example over there. The company should look at the kids making mistakes, should look at and learn, understand how it is linked, how an error is linked to goodwill and cash flow. So that's an example there that the MD is going to set and say, via goodwill, we are going to earn cash flows, and he's going to set it right via D.
D, right, that's what I thought you were saying. Right, okay. Let's pack up and try and make some sense of this. So, let me come back here. All right, so let's just think first of all. We've heard lots of reasons. If I sum up what the arguments are, A argument is, it really doesn't matter. We were doing pretty well anyway. Irrelevant. C answer is, well, that's probably the fairest way of doing it because you don't take advantage of that pitch. D answer is, wait a minute, you can't tell lies, and how did you get the book in the first place? Those are the 3 component parts. So let's answer that question. How did you get the book in the first place? So, did the book just fall into your lap? No, it didn't. Who owns the intellectual property of that book? Well, let's put it the other way. Who does not own the intellectual property of that book? You do. You don't own the intellectual property. So, let's go through things in really slow motion. We're going to have a sort of Sky Sports reliving of this. And if you remember the one thing I said to remember, what was the one thing to remember today? Oh no. Hot F, somebody, the students, they are so good. They have remembered. Hot F, right. I'd like you to have in your head 4 traffic lights. Hot F, honesty, openness, transparency, and fairness. Grade them red, yellow, green. As we go through in super slow-mo, start giving them scores. How many red, how many yellow, how many greens are we going? So let's think. In slow motion, we go into the office of this particular business. In this office, is this office a public space or is it a private space? Private space. So, in a private space, through security upstairs into the waiting room, in the waiting room sitting down, and we pick up the document, whose intellectual property is it, or rather whose intellectual property is not yours. So what do we do with that document? Do we give it back to the PA when the PA comes in? No. How are we doing? Then what do? We go into the meeting and we say to the chairman, do we say to the chairman, hey chairman, don't know who else you've got coming to a pitch, you can't trust them with anything confidential? No. At the end, do we say, oh, by the way, I found this? No. And when we leave, we go out through security, and what have we got with us? That document. So let's just think for it. What have we just done for a second? We've gone into a private place, we have found a document, it is not our document, we have kept that, and we've taken it out. What is that? Theft. It's not our document, it belongs to someone else. If that was data, imagine if that was data. Just think what would have happened if you had found in there a memory stick with all the customers' names on it. That's the same thing. In the office, in the secure area, you found it, you took it out. And then what do? You go back that evening, and what do you say to everybody? Hey, this is great. This is how we do business here. We go in, and we go, and we steal. So the problem is, as a managing director, you're also, and many of you have said this, you're setting the example. So let's see. What does option A say? Option A says, congratulate the team. Maybe not so much now, because think of the things they've done. Option B we've cut out. Option C. Now, isn't option C a lovely idea? The trouble is, option C suffers 2 problems, doesn't it? You're saying, in error, they made a mistake, but they didn't. Our student had it completely right. And then we're saying, oh, by the way, is it okay if we send the burglary team back? Because that's what they are. And what do you think the customer will say when it finds out? Actually, what? You stole the other person's pitch. So option D is the right answer. But did it happen in real life? Let's see. Did it actually happen? Oops. Right. Okay. Now, here's our hot F. And if you had traffic lights as we did, by the time you get to it, you've probably got more reds than greens. So we get to option D. Now, what actually happened here? Okay, in real life, this is what happened. D, it really happened. What happened was, there were 3 guys. It was for a finance pitch. And there were 3 guys. One was a graduate, one was a 50-year-old, and one was a guy who moved from Lehman's Bank. And the Lehman's guy was very, very keen. And that firm had just gone through a big exercise about integrity and doing the right thing. And the managing director said, you've just undone everything that we've done. So the 35-year-old who effectively was on probation, he was fired. The 50-year-old got no bonus. And the graduate got a letter explaining that that's not how you do business. And that he set the tone and he said, that is what I want everyone to remember. We give up the short term for the long term. Pretty much spot on with what our student said. And look at this graph. Look at the blue graph. Now, the blue graph is effectively what, nearly what you had here. We had a bit more A than usual, perhaps. But look at, we got the blue graph. The blue graph is what happens when people think about it and talk. The red graph is what happens if we ask people individually, no talking, just on their own to vote or to do it. Isn't that interesting what a big switch you get? And why do we find there's a switch? Partly we find is because if you have to expose yourself, you have to say what you're thinking, you are minded to think, what will the other person think of me? What is the social acceptable culture and norm of my organisation, of my firm, of my school? Is it acceptable to do that? Yes or no? And so just by talking, you'll end up with a better solution because you'll converge upon what the mean is. So transparency is very powerful. And the FT writer, Gillian Tett, when she saw this, she scrapped her column. And that day, which was now 6 years ago, she actually wrote and said, this is what everybody should do, these sort of dilemmas, because that's when it comes home to it. Integrity is so easy in theory. It's just a bit more difficult in practice. So let me leave you with a conclusion, really. So we talked about professionalism, combination of knowledge, skills, and integrity. And if you want to be a financial centre and you want your firm to do business, you need to have high levels of integrity. It's not quite so easy. If you think of one thing, take one thing with you. Hot F. Honesty, openness, transparency, and fairness. And actually, you've almost got now a classic business school 2x2 matrix, haven't you? Any decision you can get, you can actually fill that in and put some pluses and minuses in those 4 boxes. And that might just help you to get a better answer. And above all, if you don't know it, just talk to somebody else. Just explain your rationale. And that's liable equally to give you a better solution. And then you want to be able to say, with as much pride as everyone else, that the Latin phrase dictum meum pactum is what the London Stock Exchange has. The CISI has it in English. My word is my bond. Your word is your bond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. Now I would like to request Mr. Amrish Datta to give us a final vote of thanks.
Thank you, Simon. I think it was a great session, and I have attended this before. I can tell you every time I go through this again, it gives me a wake-up call and tells all of us that we've got to look at some of these basics in our day-to-day life as well. So, firstly, before I proceed to give a formal vote of thanks, Simon, I'm also taking the privilege of introducing you one gentleman whom we forgot in our first half. This is Griffin. If the video can focus, you'll probably be able to know. Griffin is the new mascot of CSI, and Griffin was all over the town of London a few months back when CSI launched. So thank you, Griffin, for being here as well. So firstly, thank you, Right Honourable Lord Mayor in absentia, Shri Ashish Chauhan. Thank you, Mr. Ravi Kumar, for being here. My good friend Simon for taking time out, and members of the CSI India Advisory Board, senior customers, representatives of key accounts, and students. It's been an honor and an absolute pleasure to be here. BSc Institute and CSI have been working together to drive regulatory certifications here in India, and we are very happy to be associated. Thank you, Simon, for taking the lead in choosing us as the partner. BSc Institute has very similar beginnings like the CSI Institute. We came out of the Bombay Stock Exchange, the oldest in Asia, like CSI did out of the London Stock Exchange. We were the champion of regulatory certifications in India. We've been running the regulatory exams here for the last about 20 odd years. We work very closely with the market operators to drive regulatory certifications, monitor them, and have the first line of oversight. And we're very happy to collaborate and bring world-class certifications here for corporates, organizations, and drive home some of the global regulatory challenges. It's of course no secret anymore that the world is becoming a global place, and we've got to embed global best practices which CSI brings on table. And I'm sure as we work together and we help drive the agenda here, we'll be able to do much more than what we have done so far. So thank you, all of you, for taking time out and being present here, and look forward to connect more during the lunchtime. So thank you. Pleasure.
And finally, lunch is about to be served, but I'm going to trust your integrity that you're going to return those lovely little red things to us. So if you've actually got one of those red things, if you wouldn't mind just dropping them on the stage as you exit, that'd be great. I think we have lunch over here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Jasneet, lunch is here, is it?